Hello everyone. Admit who among you did not know that the rainbow is an ailment at all, and the circle is the same perfect circle as the halo of the solar gala with only a small difference. The colors are ordered in reverse, and no, don't rush to shower me with statements by type.
Author, what are you talking about? We have seen a rainbow more than once, and it is an arc with the horns pointing down to the ground. And as a child, we ran to the base more than once to see where it begins.
And how did you get to the bottom of the rainbow, or did it run away from you alive? Recall the school formulation of the rainbow is an optical phenomenon caused by refraction, internal reflection and dispersion and light, the sun located opposite in drops of water. That is, to see the dispersion of light, the source must be behind and at a certain angle in relation to the optical medium and the projection screen. Optical media will be discussed later. The projection screen, when forming a rainbow, as a rule, drops of water serve. So, running after the rainbow is useless, it will just run away. What happens when we go up, right? A rainbow circle is drawn in front of us. And how often this happens circles too, and if the main halo red is directed outward, then the wider colors are directed exactly the opposite. And this is the result of the fact that the sunlight forming these rainbow halos passes through a different number of celestial spheres and accordingly different distances, covering several times the focal length, switching from the spectrum with red on the outside in white, then back into the spectrum only red inward, and so on several times. And before we compare rainbow circles with solar halos, we will try to understand these light effects within the framework of the fractal world model. The only model that gives an answer to such interesting and difficult questions, and for those who have not yet familiarized themselves with the materials and research of the fractal world, I hasten to inform you that the Sun is located in 4 celestial spheres out of a total of 7 spheres, which means that the light emitted by the Sun passes through 4 crystal spheres to the very surface of the Earth, while bending, aiming back to the center of our world. And I also want to add that only we can see 2 rainbow rings from the ground and up to a height of about 10 kilometers, and rising even higher circles you can see up to 4 pieces, as many have already guessed. But to this question we will return closer to the discussion of the gala effect. So the emitted sunlight passes through the solar sphere, thereby decomposing the white light into a spectrum with the red color directed inward. Further passing through the sphere of Venus, the colors are inverted, overcoming focal lengths, that is, white light is not scattered, and then inverted red outward. Next, Mercury's sphere turns the red color back inward, but the lunar sphere in turn gives us that same rainbow with red color outside. And 2 we observe, and the rainbow circle is wider, seen to us from our observation point, red color inwards, because as we understand by its size, it bypasses one celestial filter, one of the celestial spheres, due to a sharper curvature of light. In other words, this is a reflected rainbow circle on the second celestial sphere from us, similar to how we observe the reflection of a light source on double glazed windows, that is, the glare of one glass is a lot, so there are several reflections, and this is a very rough analogy, but nevertheless. And to follow up on all of the above, here's an example from the network. The spectrum changes its direction as the scattering lens moves away or closer to the concave lens. At the same time, I remind you that there are several hundred kilometers between the spheres. Our world inside is woven from spherical transparent nesting dolls, like double glazed windows, and between them, as you understand, there is space. So there is more than one rainbow circle, so the direction of spectral colors is different. Passing through these spherical nesting dolls, light bends inside our world, like the Mandelbrot effect. This is a color effect we can observe literally in any vessel with reflective properties. Bending light tends to be closer to the center, just like inside our world. Coming from the sun, the light falls partially on the earth, but the bulk of these rays wraps around the whole world and returns back to the center. Here is a view of the north of the two-dimensional movement of light. And so we see a three-dimensional animation from the same North Pole. And this is the view from the eastern part of our world. Notice how exactly the animation of the sun's rays replicates the previously seen glare in the vessel, and the same Mandelbrot fractals are amazing, right? And here is the same holy funnel of videos about the phase of the moon, the eclipse and the effect of the red moon, but we will not focus on this today, we'll leave it for another time. I put only a small fragment of the video about the phase of the moon from Stephen Christopher. Admire just right for understanding how light bends inside our world.
I will tell you how lunar eclipses actually happen. The sunlight itself, which is above the glass sky inside the hollow Earth, like the moon, rotates in orbit. The sun emits light and they use the glass sky as a catalyst to form the convergence of rays in the form of a funnel on the side opposite the sun on the other side of the celestial sphere of the sphere. Inside this light funnel there is an area of darkness, and when the moon passes through it, an eclipse occurs. The reason why the moon doesn't always cross this area, obviously lies in the fact that sometimes it rotates below or above the funnel. In 1938, the German Lang wrote the book Hollow World Theory. He, by the way, put forward this concept where sunlight bends inside the Earth. That light bends has been proven, and it creates a convergence in the shape of a funnel, which is also shown here by Wow. The celestial sphere is a little smaller here. In my model, the celestial sphere is different, but the concept remains the same. The sun emits light, creates different phases of the moon, and forms a funnel-shaped convergence at the top. This effect can be repeated with a glass of water and sunlight. You can see how the rays bend and form a funnel-shaped convergence on the opposite side of the light source. The same concept explains the existence of a glass sky. Everything. With this app, I'll show you how it works, how the moon goes through the funnel. Appealing like this example. This is how it happens inside the Earth. In my version, the moon is a hemisphere. In this I may be wrong, but I believe that there are no rotating objects inside the Earth. It does not have Russia, it simply orbits inside the Earth.
And here we have the sun in motion. Let's return to our rainbows, which have never been arcs, and the whole difference between rainbows and halo effect is only that the rainbow is the result of projecting scattered and bent sunlight in the droplets of the atmosphere, and the solar halo is the result of projecting the same scattered spheres of curved light only closer to the lunar sphere from the Earth on the ice cover settled on the lunar sphere itself. And by the way, chunks of ice often fall from the sky, but this is not particularly advertised, and the sensational aviation art in the sky is quite possible, and there is a way to combat the ice that settles on the lunar sphere. Managers often says this:
It is better for people to make noise about these celestial artists in all public places than to watch ice fall from the sky in large quantities.
After all, if hail comes from a fist, they somehow tried to justify, then kilogram pieces of ice falling from the sky can provoke unnecessary questions from the herd in quotes. So, I'll show you my little experiment. I don't have a perfectly smooth sphere. I had to take an Italian Domedian like this because of the rather thick glass, although not perfectly smooth, and I was never able to wash it to perfection. I used a simple LED as a light source, because I couldn't put my other bulbs into the neck of the bottle.
It's the others that won't fit inside. Will mine fit?
Look.
Piglet.
And yet, taking into account all these shortcomings, the result is more than satisfactory. The camera could not capture what I observed during the experiment. On the glass appeared rainbow halos, and on the sides some semblance of light effects on the type of pargils, infralateral and near anti-aircraft oaks. And I wouldn't be me if I didn't fill that bottle with water. In general, I still think the experiment is not quite correct, even despite the fact that I still reproduce some light effects. After all, in the heavens we have several spheres, and between them, according to all data, there is a water shell somewhere, and the source of sunlight is definitely not a single LED on Trevol like mine. So to conduct this experiment completely correctly is simply impossible, but nevertheless I showed you some results. But many of you have seen such an experiment on the internet where under the supposedly dome a light source creates light effects, similar to what we see glued to the effect. But first of all, a hemisphere is used everywhere, which means it is easy to manipulate in every possible way and can even be filmed on camera from inside. And second, notice that the effect is created only when the light source is closer to the center in the imaginary sphere, as in the model of the fractal world. After all, in the model of the flat Earth, in the center of the imaginary sphere is the Earth itself, or rather the North Pole, and the Sun is high under the dome or nailed to the dome according to different versions. Not to mention the fact that on the flat Earth is the dome and not the hemisphere, and many researchers of the flat Earth, like the Encyclopedia of the 20th century, claim that the dome has a height of 117 kilometers. This is far from a hemisphere. A dome with a height of 117 kilometers spoke about this in detail in the video. There is also an old video circulating on the internet where, again, pay attention, the light source is inside the concave part of some large imaginary sphere. And again we see a halo of light, only it is alone, because there is only one surface passing through the light. There are also flat Earth theories. It does not explain the two rainbow circles or the gyreologist effect in 22 and 46 degrees, because this is only possible when sunlight passes through several layers of glass, a double glazed window or several spheres, or rather 4 spheres inside the fractal world from the Sun to us. It turns out that light passes from the Sun to the surface of the Earth. The sphere of the Sun, the sphere of Venus, the sphere of Mercury, and the sphere of the Moon. What kind of spherical double glazed glass, right? Let's read a little about lighting effects on old research materials by Stephen Christopher. Practical proof that all light effects in the sky are possible only in the presence of a crystal sphere, when the light source is under the other side of the sphere or inside the sphere itself. Solar atmospheric caustics, reflection in comparison with solar caustics. From a round water vessel. Next, the atmospheric acoustics and crystal caustics from a glass spherical vessel with water below the crystal spheres and optical effects in practice, and next to the solar limited halo, compare all these images yourself. The next slide is the halo gala effect and the rainbow, as I mentioned earlier, in comparison with the caustics of crystal spheres. The lower tangent arcs in comparison with experiments on water caustics, as well as the arc pair and upper tangent arc, where there is definitely water in the spheres. The arcs, pairs, and upper tangents have the same optical geometry as the geometric location of the locus points. In geometry, A locus is the set of all points whose location satisfies or is determined by one or more of the specified conditions. It is strictly forbidden to confuse such terms as sphere, dome, semi-drill, circle, semicircle, sharp disc ball, plate, wheel, and so on. After all, no matter how you twist it, the above-mentioned effects do not fit into different planes. Or plate-shaped, dome-covered surfaces. And note that above it is not in vain that they put emphasis on the term sphere. This issue needs to be studied in detail. Then we can draw correct conclusions about the celestial crystal spheres inside the concave Earth. That's how it is. Adali, I will insert a few fragments from a big film by Stephen Christopher, a link to which you will definitely find in the description.
Today I want to talk more about quadruple rainbows. These are two pairs of double rainbows. It has been proven that the glass sky has double refraction. It was found in samples of Libyan desert glass, which is the fragments of a broken glass sphere destroyed long ago over Egypt over the Libyan desert. In the 1950s, Ramon discovered weak double refraction properties. When a beam goes through ice crystals or glass skies, it splits into two beams, causing birefringence. The ordinary beam travels perpendicular to the optical axis, while the extraordinary beam moves almost parallel. This is what causes the observed shift. Note that the quadruple rainbow consists of four ducts. We have an ordinary arc and a secondary ordinary arc, and an extraordinary arc and a secondary extraordinary arc. So I was on any league that he was not swimming behind. I believe that ordinary and rainbows are created by a glass sky, because it has an outer and an inner surface, and when light falls at certain angles, it can throw off two rainbows. Normally we only see the main rainbow, but sometimes when light is projected onto water vapor in the sky, and at special angles, the water vapor is not the source of the rainbow. White sunlight is scattered as it passes through the glass sphere. It is a spectrum, that's why Doug arises in the first place. It would be better to call it a solar arc. It's like shining a flashlight on a white wall. Through the water pores of the wow wall does not create a rainbow. It is created by light, which is scattered by a lens and a flashlight. So the lens in the sky scatters the light. It bounces it on the reflective surface of the water pores. This is how rainbows appear. They appeared after the flood in the book, and Genesis 9:13 says that the rainbow testifies that there will be no more floods because the glass firmament compressed the atmosphere and lowered it into the water down. Everything is explained scientifically. Previously this knowledge was suppressed, but now it is open to study. That's obvious, isn't it? Double ray refraction.
I am complete.
One day I flipped the prism upside down to make things clearer. If we live on a concave surface of the Earth, then red will bend less than violet 750 nanometers versus 380. Waves of shorter length will bounce upward from the Earth more strongly compared to waves of longer length. Escapable if we are talking about longer waves, such as microwaves and radio waves, so infrared waves allow us to see more, because they are longer than red waves. With an infrared camera, visibility is greater than with a normal camera, because it perceives longer and longer waves. Why do we only see half of the rainbow? I was asked this question by a flat earth theorist. I won't mention his name, I don't want to embarrass him too much. Proponents of the flat earth theory, as well as proponents of the convex earth theory, do not understand that light bends. Bending light has been proven. You can study the scientific sources yourself. I refer to the article, which cited research and bending of light. Light bends inside the Earth. I've shown you the pattern of rainbows forming inside the Earth before, but I haven't explained why we only see half a circle. So sunlight bends, and as it passes through a glass sphere, it scatters and is projected. Sifting and polarizing, let's move on to this diagram. Here we see the sun. It is approaching sunset. It's about 4:17 on track. It projects various so-called pillars of light. Wherever you are at any point, you can see a rainbow circle around the sun. If you are here, at the more extreme point in relation to the sun, you will see a semicircular rainbow or solar arc. As we already know, at this point we are between clouds and sunlight. The reason we see only part of the rainbow is that it cannot appear entirely at ground level. But if we go higher, for example in an airplane, staying at the same longitude, then we will see the full rainbow. When light passes through glass, it is scattered and polarized. If you're on an airplane, you've probably seen pictures like this. You see the shadow of the airplane on the clouds and a rainbow or a glory or a solar arc around the shadow of the airplane. All because the plane is between the sun and the clouds, and of course this phenomenon is caused by scattered light. That's why the rainbow has the shape of everything. The existence of glass above the ground is proved easily and simply. Light is scattered passing through the glass and then projected onto the reflecting water droplets. A drop of water does not create a rainbow, but merely a reflective canvas for light that has already been scattered by the glass. The car was parked in the parking lot, and suddenly it is not clear where a huge block of ice came from and broke the glass. Okay, I hope you can see. I'm going to shine a flashlight now. You can see a thick beam that was broken by a blow from above. There was a hole in the ceiling. It was a blow of incredible force. Joyce Pervet. Ling is the problem of deficit, applying the creation of form. For this we found on the floor. This piece of ice fell on our house. We assume that the cause of everything is anomalous heat. Ice is our friend. It helps us cool drinks and relieve muscle pain, but this ice is not our friend.
You can know.
A huge lump. How is this weighing about 9 kilo? Imagine what would happen if she broke your ceiling. Where does ice of this size come from?
Right hung.
Compromise.
A massive chunk of ice, comparable in size to a basketball, can plummet onto your home at any given moment. It descended from above, according to a pair of witnesses. They report that numerous ice fragments were scattered across the area, originating from the sky. The couple asserts that the force of the impact was so immense that it created deep craters in the earth. Our correspondent delves into the depths of this chilling phenomenon. The expert meteorologist claims that it is not hail. The weather conditions that day were not suitable. To form hail, the man who discovered these mysterious pieces of ice claims to have heard the sound of a strong impact on the ground. We heard the sound about 10 seconds before impact. The sound was similar to the flight of a drone, as if the body was moving very fast through the air, and this sound was getting louder and louder. The couple claims that those chunks of ice continued to fall on a field near their home that night. The collision caused a noticeable indentation in the ground. Additionally, ice fragments were dispersed several meters away from the point of impact.